if you had, to me, they look like frogs crossed with whales, made small and then given legs and arms, and then you like put them on the land. Boom, there you have it. But there you go. Make your own mind up of what exactly they look like. Biology and behaviour. Quaggans can breathe both water and air. They can breathe the air. Oh, I thought they just kind of held their breath. Or at least that's what I assume anyway whenever I hear about like a mammal going down or something. They can live in either fresh or salt water and can survive easily on the land, though after about a day or so their skin becomes cracked, dry and uncomfortable. Quaggans are omnivorous and live on a diet of harvested corals, seaweed and fish. They lay eggs and their young are cared for by an entire community. Most quaggans, which I think is quite cool, that's very, very different to what we've heard about with some of the other races already, like the Char, for instance. Most quaggans come from the south and have a natural coloration that blends from a two-tone sea blue on the back to pale grey along the belly. I suppose we can kind of see that in the concept art. There is also a northern group that is black along the back and white along the belly, much like penguins and orca. So that's really interesting. I'm wondering, see, if they're like in the north, I probably shouldn't think it, because I suppose Crater can be the north as well if we assume sort of around the Giants Basins, but I wonder if they're going to be like around in the Shiver Peaks and stuff. This is where we'll find like the penguin quaggan. That'd be amazing if there were like basically penguins there. That would be so cool. Quaggans are peaceful by nature and rarely become aggressive unless provoked. This is pretty much a key thing about them. They're peaceful and rarely become aggressive. When quaggans are threatened or in pain, their adrenaline levels surge and parts of their skin turn a dark scarlet hue. Fangs erupt from their mouths and their flippers grow long, formidable talons. I like this idea of like, there's a lot about the quaggan that's to do with sort of the colour of their skin changing or just their colours changing, and I think that's quite cool because like you hear about that like with fish quite a lot, don't you? And you know they're obviously they're obviously a water race, so I think that's quite a nice little touch for ArenaNet to put them in there to make them feel a little bit more believable, a little bit more distinct. But yeah, if they get angry, if they get pissed, they grow big talons and get mad. While in this state, instinct overcomes rational thought, and the quaggan is little more than an aquatic engine of destruction. They're deeply embarrassed when they display such aggression, and it's considered a social faux pas among their people. I think that's amazing. That's so, so cool. So they're kind of like, I shouldn't draw the comparison. The more time goes on, the more little references I make to Pokemon, and it worries me a little bit, but this always does remind me of like Mankey and Primeape and stuff. It sounds exactly the same. It's brilliant. This transformation is the primary reason quaggans actively avoid fighting. They're a danger to themselves and others in this state. A bit like the Hulk then, I suppose. They just get pissed at anyone and everyone. They are unreasoning brutes driven only to destroy, and they think nothing of tactics or collateral damage. They're so different to how they like usually are, which is really, really cool. Heroic quaggans are capable of being a little more aggressive without succumbing to their rage, but they're looked upon by the society as being a bit odd. So I don't like, Guild Wars has always kind of done this. It's used the term hero or heroic in a really weird, like they use it too much, too much. But apparently heroic quaggans, I suppose these are just people that get rage but they kind of channel it in the right ways, I suppose is what they're trying to say there. Quaggans are unfailingly polite, so much that they consider most self-reference to be offensive and self-centered. As a result, they rarely use the pronouns me, my, or I. Oh, it says rarely there. I was under the impression that they never use that. Instead preferring to use the general term quaggan. As a result, conversations with quaggans may frustrate more direct races. The phrase, I've lost my pet fish, I'm sad, becomes quaggan has lost quaggan's pet fish. Quaggan is sad. This manner of speech leads many to assume the quaggans are childlike or less intelligent. The quaggans are actually quite wise, but in ways that are different from most other races. It doesn't elaborate on that. It doesn't go on to say, oh, how are they wise in different ways? I wonder what they mean there. I like the idea of them actually being like really powerful law keepers or something, or like, you know, like we heard about with the crate with like the shiny black rocks and stuff under the water. That would be really cool if like the quaggans knew the secret about it, and that's why there's kind of a war with the crate going on. That would be amazing. But they don't elaborate on it. I don't know how else they can be quite wise in ways that are different from other races. We don't know how old the race is either, so it's like it could be a toss-up. They could know loads about the history of Tyria, or they might be talking about something completely different. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Other races generally regard quaggans as kind, innocuous creatures, unless pushed. The quaggans themselves would prefer to lead quiet lives. They'll move out of the way of more aggressive races if they are simply told to leave. The problem is that due to ever increasing attacks on their people by hostile races such as the crate, the crate, there is no place left for them to run. We get another quote here from someone called Argoth One Hand, who was a former adventurer. I see what they did there. Argoth One Hand, a former adventurer. That sounds like a Norn. I don't know why. We started pushing around the little butterballs, all in fun, of course. Then they got mad, and that's when the real problem started. And you lost your hand, did you, Mr. Argoth? There's another section here called clothing and equipment. I do wish there was an image here for us to see. I suppose the previous image kind of works. They got those weird headdress things on. But clothing and equipment. Quaggans are comfortable naked, but wear clothing as a sign of individuality and pride. Normally, Quaggans' clothing consists of scale sequined headpieces with long beaded harnesses around the upper chest and arms. They often adorn themselves as well with water-resistant feathers of colourful shorebirds, making gathering of Quaggans quite a festive occasion. Quaggans' homes utilise the resources of the sea, and they consist of round pods made of coral and corded seaweed. This is really, really cool. You can see like videos of people going in these things. They're like these big like orbs, right? Big circles, but they're all hollowed out in the middle. There's actually an image a little bit lower down. I'll put that on the screen, right? The image is kind of similar, I guess, but they're like really bright white, and you see like that little hole in the side. Like they are really quite tight, small holes, and when you're swimming around, you can swim in them, and you end up in like these big kind of hollow, eerie looking like orb things. It's really, really, really cool. I always liked how small the holes are. I talked a lot, I think in Factions really I talked about this most, but like how I would have liked it if Guild Wars 1 had sort of more small enclosed places like some of those you see in Kyning Center. Well, this is like one of those things in Guild Wars 2 where it's like yes, they're actually giving us like a small doorway to go through and stuff. It's really, really cool, and they could be like pipes as well. I vaguely remember seeing something like swim through but it's really, really cool. The pods are tethered to the ocean floor, but can easily be towed to safer locations if needed. So yeah, they give that impression as well as being like really light kind of things that can just sort of be floated around if necessary, but they're strong as well. You know, like you can see those veins there. For light, Quaggans farm luminous pearls and phosphorescent algae. Yeah, obviously it would be pitch black in them, but like I never really noticed this actually, but I guess they do like glow. They're quite bright inside them, so that's what they use. Phosphorescent stuff, like when we get onto the Sylvari article, was it in the Sylvari article they talk about that, or was that just an interview? But Sylvari, in case you don't know, they can have like phosphorescence on them, and they can like or like luminescence. They can like glow at night, and like you can have like body paint on you like that. It's really, really quite cool. Anyway, that's off topic. Recent history. Until recently, Quaggan history was largely uneventful, even boring. Well, I can imagine so with such a peaceful race. Quaggan's sagas, as recounted by their past keepers, consisted of bare recitations of who begat whom and where the sardines ran thick that year. It sounds like it really does sound like Jeff or Ree or someone, whoever had this idea, was just thinking back to really boring old history lessons. And they were like, yeah, let's say that the Quaggan kind of do this. That changed, though, 50 years ago, with the invasion of their territories by the Krayt. I don't think we ever learned why 50 years ago that started to happen. That's quite interesting, I suppose. We didn't learn that in the Krayt article, did we? Why they were suddenly... Oh no, we did hear why the Krayt were moving, didn't we? I think it was just because of the dragons, wasn't it? Was it just the deep sea dragon pushing them around or something? I don't know. This slave-keeping aquatic race had been denizens of deep trenches, but they suddenly erupted into traditionally Quaggan lands, destroying their civilization. The surviving Quaggans fled into shallower water, eventually moving up rivers and streams into the larger lakes. Another group, fleeing the elder dragon Jormag, like the Kodan and the Norn, have migrated south into the more inhabited lands of Tyria. So there's actually like 3 races up there. I like the idea that the Quaggan were sort of found all over the place. I guess there is the question, since they are amphibious, why we didn't see them in Guild Wars 1, but, you know, I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to be one of those people that sits there and says, oh, look, why weren't they in Guild Wars 1? This is stupid, this is bad law. Why? Because, you know, you've got to afford Arena a little bit of creative freedom to add new races and sort of adapt the world and put cool new things in there every now and then. I mean, if they were dissuaded by that kind of mentality all the time, they probably never would have even wanted to do the Elder Dragons. I mean, I do remember when they first announced like the plot of Guild Wars 2 with the movement of the world and stuff, a lot of us were like, what are you talking about? Giant dragons? It sounds like you're just pissing about because people like dragons. We've already got dragons in Guild Wars. What's going on? And there was that line that like the elder dragons have nothing to do with Kunavang and Glint, and they just felt like shoehorned in at first. You know, you get used to these things, they expand on it with more lore, and it ends up pretty damn awesome. Many quaggans, including their central leadership, have been killed in Crate assaults. Though the race was once ruled by a leader known as the Marchiosis, the noble... I've never known exactly how to say that. The noble family has been slaughtered, eaten, or enslaved by the Crate, depending on the account. Though I like the idea that it's enslaved, because then that kind of opens up for a dynamic event somewhere where you can save them, which would be pretty damn awesome. Those quaggans who survived, but then again, no, going back to that, that's like what I talked about in the other blog post about how can they really make big changes like that to the entire race, really? Unless it was literally just an event that, like, you save them and then, like, 24 hours later, in-game time, real time, whatever, like, then they get captured again because the quaggan are just useless. I suppose that would work. Those quaggan who survived these assaults now rule themselves, following the leadership of a village mayor known as the Varanos. So if you remember the quote from up at the top, that was a Varanos, that guy who said, "You must understand, quaggans do not want to bother anyone, quaggans only want peace." So that was the Varanos. I suppose we'll be in a lot of these whenever we go to like a little quaggan village, which could be quite cool. I wonder if they'll have like... See, I don't know. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. I'm thinking of doing a video on it or something. But you can. I doubt we'll ever go up to these Varanoses and they'll like have a quest for us or anything like that, because they use dynamic events now. So I don't know whether the only way we'll really interact with them is when we're saving them from some kind of assault, which I think would suck a little bit. But hey, maybe they've all got like some kind of interesting dialogue for us. That would be quite cool. Where was I? I can't see it anymore. Here we go. These Varanos work with one another, offering aid where they can as the race is friendly and interconnected even in these difficult times. I like that idea as well. Like, even the ones in the lakes, like, that somehow they've got a way of getting word out to their friends out in the oceans and stuff. That's really cool. A small group of Varanos who govern villages throughout Kryta have reached out to that nation's human queen, and the two races have entered into a friendly alliance of help and support. Although both races are besieged, humans and quaggans assist each other as best they can when the other is in need. I like that. I like that there's actually peace somewhere. There's flat out an alliance, something. There's none of this kind of crap going on, you know. It's also difficult with the treaty between the humans and the Char right now, with separatists on both sides and stuff like that. And there always seems to be like some kind of caveat, and it's all about how the humans are pushed back and everything's going terribly for them. But they do have the quaggan. At least they've got something. Quaggans venerate a single god known as... This is a cool paragraph, actually. Known as Malagan, who represents the bounty of the sea. I think I mentioned this in a previous dungeon video, actually. They have a single god known as Malagan, who represents the bounty of the sea. In temperament and nature, she is very similar to the human goddess Melandru, so much so that human scholars connect the two. Quaggans are too polite to disagree, though they will point out the obvious differences between a land-based nature goddess and an aquatic deity, embodying the wealth of the ocean. However, quaggans muddle the waters further by using sunken temples to Melandru, such as in Lake Gendar, for their own worship of Malagan. Lake Gendar is actually somewhere you can go in game. In fact, I think it's what they're calling like the lake near the Asgard. Hold on, let me check Wiki. Yeah, this is the Lake Gendar is the place next to like the Ascalon settlement that I've been talking about with the weird tunnel and stuff. In Guild Wars 1, that's the Lesser Giants Basin, but thing is, if you look at the map now, it's like the Lesser Giants Basin doesn't exist anymore. It's just like all like splattered out everywhere, and it's just like gone. The Greater Giants Basin definitely still exists, but the other one seems to be like just a series of rivers and lakes now. It's kind of a bit of a shame, I suppose. It's not as easy to map up Guild Wars 1 and say, oh look, there are quaggan in the Lesser Giants Basin, because it's just so different. But anyway, quaggan religion tends to be conservative and traditional. The past keepers serve as priests and are responsible for the legends of each community of quaggans, even though that tends to be very boring, as we learned earlier, where they just talk about who begat who. We got one last little section here called Behind the Scenes. The quaggan originally showed up as more roly-poly, almost cartoony creatures, and they were quickly adopted as a cute aquatic race. Their original round appearance proved challenging to rig for animation, so they went through a number of iterations, at one point slimming down and becoming more like dolphins. Later they regained some of their weight, but retained a beaver-shaped tail from earlier designs. I like this, actually. It's something that I've always been a little bit curious about, how much game limitations has actually shaped the way various races and things look like. Like, for instance, there's a lot of races out there that we haven't seen anything of in Guild Wars 2 yet. We've not seen any of it, and we're like, for instance, you guys have heard it enough. I'm a big fan of the Tengu. We don't know what they look like, and it's like, well, how different are they going to look in Guild Wars 2? Well, it's the same engine, I suppose, so they could look exactly the same. But all of the races have kind of had a bit of a rework. you know, the char look really different, even if it is just because of their running animation. So it is stuff like that that I'm quite curious about, and you know, it's interesting to see how much it does obviously have quite a drastic effect on what's going on there. Their dual nature came from a concern that, being so cute and cuddly, they would never survive in a deadly outer world. Yeah, because ArenaNet have just filled it with so many perils. That was when we hit on the idea of their hulking out. Do not make Quaggan angry. You would not like Quaggan when Quaggan is angry. This brought about the wide-jawed, fanged-faced expression of the Quaggans, and with it a new question. Why wouldn't the Quaggans just be Quaggan hulks all the time? In case of art informing law, we determined that the Quaggans were embarrassed by this violent behaviour. That self-consciousness led to further development of Quaggan attitudes about individuals and communities, and the foundations of their society were born. See, that's how they built the race. It's really interesting, isn't it? They might have actually had so much lore sort of padded out about the race, but then just because of this like game limitation, that changed, and then that changed, and then there were all these little iterations until finally they had something completely different. It's really, really quite interesting. I wonder, this is why I could never be a writer or something, not like on a project with like a whole game or something like that, because I get really connected to things when I like created them in my own mind, and I get like so connected to them. I'm like, no, you cannot change this, and that's like, that must be such a hard thing to do in the creative process, to be able to just drop stuff as you come, you know. And it's something that writers obviously have to do a lot, especially with game worlds. Where was I again? I keep losing my place. This article, I swear to God, I'm going to be cutting so much crap out. In large part because of those unique societal norms, Quaggans are one of the few races in the game that have a distinct speaking style, but that distinction can be difficult. Simply replacing every personal pronoun with Quaggan is a challenge to clarity. Thankfully, teeth and all, Quaggans remain one of our most cuddly race, so the work is easy to endure. Like I said, they're like the cutie race. They really, really are. You know, I think a lot of people at first glance will look at Guild Wars 2 and point at the Ysera and be like, oh, look at the adorable little Ysera with their funny animations, and it's all so over the top, but I reckon, you know, let's say Guild Wars gets really big, it's Quaggans that people will end up like going oohing and ahhing over and absolutely loving, and sort of start talking like them in a weird way. But yeah, there you go, that's the Quaggans. People already love them. I think they're a cool race. I'm interested to see what's going on with them, especially this idea of them sort of being wise in different ways to other races and stuff like this. But yeah, it's, as you've probably figured out, it's quite a short blog post. I've been talking for 24 minutes here. I guess that helps, because I can't believe I talked for 10 minutes flat at the start. I bored myself. I really, because it's been so long since I originally did the post commentary for all this stuff, and I kind of come back because it's been so long. Like I just watched it all again. It was like watching it with fresh eyes, and that intro, Jesus, I just kept going. So I am sorry if that bored you guys, but there we go. We'll get 2 episodes out of this. First blog post, I have no idea where we are in the dungeon at the moment. That would be nice if it tied up with us finishing the first floor. Probably won't, but I'll catch you guys next time for, hold on, let me just clarify this. We were just in July. July, there was no blog posts. Wow. Okay, hold on. August had to have something. August has got loads because this was Gamescom. Aha, yes. In August, next episode, we will be talking about, drumroll, the Sylvari, and I'm going to try and like whack them out, and if I do the Sylvari, I'll definitely be doing the Ysera, so don't worry about that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. See you next time, everyone.